So could you tell us more about potter's graves?
Most cemeteries have a potter's field somewhere nearby. If people just didn't have enough money, because it's very expensive to have a proper funeral and either a casket or a coffin, even coffins were expensive. There were burial costs for the plot. So the cities usually own a plot of land that's considered a potter's field. And if you can't afford a proper burial, that's where they inter you. That's also where, if they find someone and can't identify them, that's where they're buried.
Did we lose the records in fire and flood
A
and...
little bit of everything. There are still some that exist. The oldest plot maps that I have are from the 1920s, though, after the first grade raising, and that's not that far back.
No,
It's
it's not. 100 years, yeah. Wow. When this one goes back almost 200, right?
Yeah, it does. 1830s.
I don't see many death dates that are 1900.
Yeah, because of how they had to dispose of the
Yeah.
bodies.
So of course the 1900 storm happened. We don't see many 1900 markers here, and that's because they had to dispose of the bodies in a few different ways, whether that was sending them to sea or burning them in
Yes.
funeral pyres.
Yep.
So a lot of these families didn't get to retrieve their loved ones, family members, right?
Exactly. And really quickly after the 1900 storm, they wouldn't have even been able to identify the body if they found it because of what happens. So it's far and few between that you actually have a marked grave that has the death date of the 1900 or victim of 1900 storm. The Satius grave over here, the father died just before the 1900 storm, and then the entire family was wiped out during the storm. And theirs actually says it on the marker. And she now has a beautiful marker. But that's the exception to the rule.
That's, oh man, what a story.
Yeah, it is. That's dedication and love.
September 8th, 1900. Wow, that is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so we don't see many of these here in the
No.
cemetery.
There are a handful, but not many.
Yeah, home to the nation's deadliest natural disaster, and it's hard to find a headstone that says September 8th, 1900.
Yeah. There were, some of the funeral pyres went through the cemetery district because the funeral pyres didn't entirely get rid of all of the remains. Even modern day cremation doesn't. Some of those were gathered and interred in one spot here. So technically there's a mass burial, but it wasn't meant to be a mass burial.
You could go through this thing for days
or
years, like
yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
and always discover something new.
Always. I've been coming out here for 20 years doing cleaning and repair work and documenting, and I don't know if I've ever come out here and not seen or found something new, ever.
So you were mentioning that some of these families would hire big name architects or big name sculptors to create headstones.